Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we let everyone in. My name is Linda Steinberg, and I have the honor of serving as president of the National Council of Jewish Women of Canada, an organization with a very proud 128-year history. At NCJWC, our mission is to drive social change through education. In line with this mandate, our Ageism Committee, chaired by Monica Simon, has organized today's webinar entitled Become Scam Savvy, presented by Stephanie Senecal. Looking ahead, a little bit more information before we start. In the fall of this year, we are hosting another very relevant webinar addressing elder abuse in trust and power relationships. More details and registration information will be sent prior to this event in the fall. And before I hand things over to Sharon Allentuck to introduce our speaker, a gentle reminder to all to please mute yourself and enter your questions in the chat box. Debbie Wasserman will moderate our Q&A following the presentation. Sharon, it's all yours.
Thank you, Linda. It is my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Senecal. Stephanie is an Ontario Provincial Police civilian member and coordinator of the community support team at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. She manages a team of volunteers who do callbacks to senior victims of fraud, who input fraud data, hold booths at public events, and who also provide fraud prevention presentations, such as this one. Stephanie also presents on a regular basis, works closely with the community engagement officers, and assists law enforcement with their senior victims of fraud. Stephanie, it's all yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully it works just as good as it did earlier. Okay. Can everybody see the screen? Okay. Okay, perfect. So again, my name is Stephanie Senecal. I'm the Senior Support Unit Coordinator at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. I've been in this position for about 5 years now, and doing presentations is probably the best part of my job. I love doing it, so I'm happy to have all of you here today. I don't think I've ever presented to such a large group online, so thank you everybody for joining. So during the presentation, did my slide change? I can't see, so... Yes, okay, perfect. So during the presentation, we're going to talk about who the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is. We're going to talk about the tools of the fraudsters, the solicitation methods, the top reported frauds, what to do if you're a victim, and how to report frauds as well. So let's get started. So a little bit about the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is we are based out of North Bay, Ontario. We've been a center for about 35 years now. So it initially started with one OPP detective who was assigned to frauds, and they soon realized that one wasn't enough. So the RCMP thought this was a great initiative, great project, so they jumped on board. So we are in partnership with the Ontario Provincial Police, the RCMP, and the Competition Bureau of Canada. Most of our employees are RCMP employees. We only have about 4 OPP employees, but we are a strong but mighty team, believe me. The other thing about the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is that we do not do any investigations, but I will explain to you what we do in the next few slides. And we are pretty much like a central repository for fraud information. So the first unit that we have, our primary goals are prevention through education and awareness, disruption of criminal activity, intelligence dissemination, support to law enforcement, and building partnerships with the private and public sector. So the first unit that we have is called the intake and victim engagement unit. We've been going through a lot of changes at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre in the last little while. So this is a new unit. It used to be called Fraud Prevention and Intake Unit. So what this unit does is they validate the reports that have been submitted online. And they also accept all the reports through our online, our telephone, mail, fax, law enforcement, government agencies, and our partners will also send us reports. So this unit is the unit that will input every single report into the database. They deal with victims and attempts of fraud and cybercrime as well. They're victim-centered approach, so they'll take the victim statements. They've been trained how to interview. They are, I call them the fraud specialists actually, because they're the ones who learn about the new fraud types first, and they're the ones who share the information with the other units so we can share it with all of you. So that being said, this unit will refer reports of fraud to other units when it meets specific guidelines. And the top 4 reasons would be if the person has lost more than $10,000. If they've sent cash in the mail, we will try to do a parcel intercept if possible, if it's not too late. They will forward the reports of new twists, like I said, so we can advise you of what is happening. And they're also the ones that will deal with any government fraud-related reports. They do priority inputting for different reasons. So one reason would be if there's a special project. So example, when the OPP was doing an investigation on the grandparent scam, the OPP were asked to send us all reports of the grandparent scam. So this unit concentrated on inputting those reports first. So those are the priority inputs. The second unit is the senior support unit. So this is the unit that I am part of. So this unit is compiled of 3 OPP civilian members, including myself, plus 1 OPP detective sergeant. And all the other employees that are part of this unit, they're all volunteers. So these volunteers will do outreach to senior victims of fraud from coast to coast. So they will call back these senior victims to provide them support, sometimes only emotional support, but they will also provide advice, educate them on what happened to them, because at times they don't even know what happened. And they will also educate them on other types of frauds, because we know that once you are a victim, you are a bigger target of being re-victimized. This unit as well will do fraud prevention presentations. They'll hold booths at events, and they will also do special projects and special data entry as well. So this unit is also changing, just like the other unit. So about 3 months ago, I was the only OPP civilian member. They hired 2 more members to assist the wonderful work that I did, and now we all do it together. But instead of just being there for seniors, we will be there for anybody. So we will follow the trends. We will do presentations to all age groups, including senior groups. We'll go in vulnerable communities to educate them on what is happening within their communities. So example of that would be like the Huron Treaty Settlement. So we did a stint where we tried to go in almost every single Indigenous community that were receiving funds to let them know that they may be a target and how to protect themselves. And again, we'll do presentations, education to everybody, not just seniors. Now, the third unit that we have is called the Operational Support Unit. So this unit does a lot of wonderful things as well. So they will share our intelligence. So this could come of 2 ways. It could be that somebody from the unit notices that there's a trend in a specific community. So they will compile the information and send it to, example, Toronto Police Service to let them know that this is happening within their community, but not just that, to give them the information to investigate if they choose to investigate. Or it could be the other way around, where Toronto Police Service is seeing a trend within their community, within their city, and they want to do an investigation, then they can come to us and say, hey, what do you have on this person, this bank account, this telephone number, and so on. We compile the information and we provide them with the package. The other thing that we do is disruption, and I'm going to talk about disruption on the next slide, so I'll skip that one. International coordination. So these wonderful investigative packages that we are creating, not only that we can share them within Ontario, within Canada, but we can share them all over the world. So collective work is a lot better than just within Canada for sure. The other thing we do is, or this unit does, is deconfliction. So we have a program that links investigations. So an example would be like if Vancouver Police Service is investigating this specific person or this specific bank account or whatever, but Toronto Police Service is also investigating the same bank account, the same person, we are able to link them together and say, hey, you guys are both investigating the same thing. Why don't you guys work together? So that's something else that we do. Into the disruption slide. So we have somebody that is responsible for telephone numbers, merchant account, emails, bank accounts, and websites. So what they do is they pull all, for example, all the fraudulent telephone numbers that have been reported to us, and we share it with our partners, so the telephone service providers. And we let them know that these numbers have been reported to us as fraudulent. So these partners will do their own internal investigation to determine, again, for example, if that telephone number is fraudulent, and if so, they shut it down. So a good example of this would be, imagine if you receive a letter in the mail that says that you've won a prize, and it says to call this specific number urgently. One person reports it to us, we send it to the telephone service provider, they cancel that telephone number. So then every other person that received that same letter that may become a victim by calling that telephone number will get a number that is not in service. So that is a really good service that we provide. As for the numbers that you see on the slide, they're fairly low. They should be a lot higher. And the main reason why they're so low, well, I believe they're low, is because our partners are not obligated to advise us when they do disrupt a telephone or bank account and email and so on. So these are the numbers that we know of, but we know there's a lot more as well. So now we're going to show you the dollar loss over time. So we know that fraud is getting worse every single day. We hear it more in the news. We talk about it more. We have friends, family, or people from any type of group that we're part of that have become a victim of a fraud. So if you look at these numbers, in 2020, we had a total loss reported to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre of $165 million. In 2021, that number jumped to $389 million. 2022, $530.5 million. 2023, $567.7 million. And just last year, the number went up to $637.3 million. These numbers are huge. But the scariest part about these numbers, it's estimated that only about 5 to 10% of people actually report fraud to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. And we know this is 5 to 10% because McMaster University did a study where they did an investigation, they did arrests, and they actually found law enforcement, not McMaster University, but law enforcement did a takedown of a warehouse where there's a bunch of scammers, where they found a list of victims with the amount that they were able to steal from them. So McMaster University did a cross-reference between that list and our database, and that's how we came to this number. So 5 to 10%. So again, if you look at the previous slide, $637.3 million last year, and that's only 5 to 10% of losses. Okay. Now, top 10 solicitation methods by dollar loss in 2024. So how are fraudsters communicating with their victims? So the internet is number one. The internet social media actually is number one. So last year we had 4,640 victims with a total loss of $141.2 million. Number two was the internet with 3,592 victims with a total loss of $115.8 million. And email was number 3. Don't worry, I'm not going to read all of them, but email was number 3 with 1,601 victims with a total loss of $73 million. Now we're going to start talking about the tools of the fraudsters. And I find it important to talk about the tools of the fraudsters because these tools are used in every single scam. So it's important to know the tools to be able to protect ourselves. And after I'm done talking about the tools, we will talk about the top 10 scams. So number one that I want to talk about, or sorry, the first one I want to talk about is the telephone. So automated dialing is a tool that the fraudsters use. So this is when there's like a computer program that is calling a list of telephone numbers. These lists could be created by just fraudsters to target a specific community. They could be stolen from like the phone book or Canada 411. And these lists can also be created through a database breaches. It's important to know that the more that you answer the telephone when it's a fraudulent call, the more calls you will get. So if you do not recognize the number, even though it looks like a number within your community, it is recommended to not pick up and let it go to voicemail. The second tool is robocalls. So robocalls, that is when you pick up the telephone and it's an automated message. So example would be that your Visa card has been compromised. Please press 1 to speak to a representative. So anytime you need to speak to a number to speak to somebody, that is a robocall. And most often it is used with an automated dialer. So if you do pick up one of these calls and it's an automated message, just hang up the phone. Do not press any numbers. Don't speak to anybody. Because again, if you are pressing those buttons, it is telling these people that there is somebody at the end of that line and your number will be within their list more often. The third one I want to talk about is spoofing. So spoofing, this is when the fraudsters can make you see what they want you to see on the call display. So again, it could be a number that resembles one from your community. It could be a name of an organization, law enforcement, government, or bank, a credit card company. It could be anything. So rule of thumb would be don't believe everything you see on the call display. So if you do get a call, for example, from MasterCard, letting you know that your credit card's been compromised, you can just simply hang up and wait a minimum of 5 minutes and call the number on the back of your card to confirm the legitimacy of that call. And the reason why I say to wait a minimum of 5 minutes is because of the delayed disconnect here on my list. So what delayed disconnect means is that the line has not actually been disconnected right away. And when you're picking up the phone and calling the legitimate number, you are reaching the same people that had just called you. And this is a tactic that the fraudsters are using. They'll even tell you, oh, well, if you don't believe it's MasterCard, go grab your card. And they're really nice, right? They're really polite. They're professionals. They know how to get you. So they'll say, take your time, go grab your credit card and come back. And when you have it, we'll hang up and you can call and confirm that it is actually MasterCard. So the thing is that most of the time you do hear the dial tone. You can hear yourself punching in the numbers. You can hear it ringing, but who is picking up? The exact same person that you were just speaking to because the line has not been disconnected. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is fraud initiated by email and text message. So again, the spoofing tactic, just because you get a text message and it says it's from Bell or the government, or it looks like a number from your community, it does not mean that it's actually from that person or that organization you are believing it to be. For emails, if you get an email from any type of organization or anybody, but that means it could be the name of a friend, if you take your mouse and you hover over the name of the organization or the name of the person that's in the from field, you will be able to see what the actual email address is. Most scammers will use free domains. So free domains would be like Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, Outlook. There's so many these days. But anytime that you see the name of an organization using one of those free domains, chances are really, really high that it is a scam. So just delete the email, block and delete, or block, report and delete if you have the option of that. a lot of people will say, well, how do we stop these calls from coming in? How do we stop these emails from coming in? The short answer is you can't. So you need to be able to learn and see which ones are fraudulent and which ones aren't. If you're questioning yourself, I would just say delete it. If your gut instinct is telling you that it might be fraudulent, then delete it. Don't respond to those emails. If you feel like it might be real, again, go and find the number that you are familiar with and call that company. Let's just say they're claiming to be your hydro company. You have an overdue bill. Well, if you think it might be true, go in your filing cabinet or go in your emails and find an email or correspondence that you've received in the past and call the telephone number on there to confirm whether it's real or not. It's not recommended that you go on the internet to find telephone numbers, because the internet is a really good place for legitimate companies to post telephone numbers, but it's also a really, really good place for these fraudsters to post fraudulent telephone numbers. So I'll give you an example. So one of my neighbors here, he's a young senior, 60 years old or 61 years old now. And we have Eastlink as our telephone service provider here and our TV service provider. And he was having issues. So he went on the internet and found the telephone number for Eastlink, and it was a fraudulent telephone number. And just by him doing that, these fraudsters were able to compromise his computer, compromise his bank accounts, do e-transfers, apply for credit cards. That's because he found a fraudulent telephone number. So I know that it's not always easy to find these telephone numbers, especially when it's like, example, we had a gentleman that thought he had won a Tim Hortons 50-50 draw. I had no clue how to find the number for Tim Hortons. So I actually drove to Tim Hortons and I got the telephone number. So again, it's not always easy, but there's always a way. So the second bulletin on my slide here is automation. So again, there's computer programs sending thousands and thousands and thousands of emails at the same time. It doesn't necessarily mean that they know who you are. It's just that you are receiving that email. If they do know who you are, sometimes it's because your information was stolen through a database breach of some sort. Or sometimes you've provided the information to the scammer or to a scammer in the past, where now they know your email and they know your name. It's important to know that scammers do share information. So if one type of scam has only been able to get your name, for example, and they've tried to scam you multiple times and it's not working, they're going to sell your name and your telephone number or your email to another scammer that will target you by another type of fraud pitch. And then that way, sometimes it works, right? So example, if they call you and they say, oh, hi, Debbie, you've just won a prize. You're like, oh, they know my name. Maybe I did win a prize. So it's just a tactic that they're using. The last bulletin is email compromise. So when I talk about email compromise, it brings me to passwords. I know that passwords are a pain. We will tell you never to use the same password twice, especially for those important accounts. And when I say important accounts, it includes your email. Because if you use the same password for your email and your bank and your Amazon account, for example, if the fraudster can gain access to your email for however they did, they will study every single email that you have in there, and then they will try that same password with the other accounts that you're receiving emails from. So they can compromise your bank, they can compromise your Netflix, they can compromise your sportscheck.ca, they can compromise everything if you're using the same password. So please do not use the same password twice, especially with those important accounts. The other thing I want to talk about with passwords is the double authentication factor. If you are creating an account, doesn't matter what type of account you are creating, if they are giving you the option of the double authentication factor, please use it. I know it is also a pain, but it's been put in place to protect you. And these double authentication factor could be a few different things. It could be like a voice recognition. It could be where they send you a code to your email or text message, and you need to enter that code to be able to access your account. Or it could be security questions like, what kind of car did you drive? What was the name of your first car? What street did you live on? Your mother's maiden name. Those things like that are also double authentication factor. So if you have the option, please use it. The other thing I want to talk about is those little fancy codes, the double authentication factor codes. Do not share them with anybody. Under no circumstance are you to share that code with somebody, and I'll explain to you why. So I know there's a scam happening right now where you get a telephone call and they say that your Amazon account has been compromised. They'll ask you if you've purchased an iPhone 13 and you're like, no, I didn't do that. They're like, okay, we didn't think it was you, but we need to reverse the charges now. So we'll send you a code to your cell phone. You give us that code and we'll be able to refund you. But really what they're doing is that they go on your Amazon account and they put in your telephone number or your email, whatever they have, and they say, forget your password. And when you click forget your password, it sends a code to your email or to your cell phone as a text message. So now you're giving them that code. So now they're able to change your password and now they're able to compromise your account. This can happen with banks as well. So again, that little code, under no circumstance, I don't care what their excuse is, you do not share it with anyone. It's for you to use and you to use only. Okay, we're going to change slides. I know that some people may have questions, and I'm not sure if it was mentioned at the beginning. I don't remember because I've been talking so much. But if you have questions, please put it in the Q&A and we will answer them at the end of the presentation, okay? So the next slide is fraud initiated online. So I have 6 different tools here that I'm going to talk about. So the first one is search engine optimization. So that is when an example would be if you go to Google and you're looking for a flight to Cuba and you write flight to Cuba. So the search engine is Google. The optimization part of this is that fraudsters are paying to have their websites show up in the top results. So just because it says the first website says flightcenter.ca, for example, it might be a fraudulent website, and chances are really good that it is. So if you are buying shoes, whatever you're buying, shoes, vacation, or rental property, you're buying an animal, whatever it may be, just be very vigilant that on the first websites. Like if you're buying Nike shoes, for example, it's recommended to go to nike.com or nike.ca. If you're buying a flight or a trip to Cuba, don't go on Flight Center or cheapflights.com. Go to sunwing.com, go to aircanada.com. Try to go to the source, not any of those third-party companies. The second bulletin is pop-ups. So there's a few different types of pop-ups. It could be where you go on a website and a website pops up on top of the website that you're on. It's recommended to just X out of all of those, even though if it's a spaghetti sauce recipe that you're like, oh, that looks good, just X out of it for a few different reasons. So one is that if you click on it, it could contain viruses or malware without you knowing. But the other thing is that it could lead you to a website that could convince you of something, and then you get frauded that way. So any type of pop-up websites, just X out of it. The other pop-up I want to talk about, and to me, it's the scariest of the pop-ups. So this is a pop-up that you get on your computer or device, and it says that your computer has a virus. You need to call this number urgently, or you might lose all your data, or you could lose all your pictures, but it might just say you have a virus. Call us and we'll remove it. So what happens when people actually are calling these numbers is that they will need to pay a small fee, so $20, $50 to remove the virus. These fraudsters know how to remove the virus that's within your device because they're the ones who embedded it there in the first place. But what they're doing is that they're stealing your credit card information, and then they will remote access into your device to remove this virus. Most often, an application needs to be downloaded, or you need to provide them grant them access. And sometimes you are unknowingly doing this, but they get into your device, they will remove the virus, but as they're in there, they're stealing all of your personal information. And let me tell you, if you think that you do not have any personal information in your device, they will find the personal information, okay? So long story short here, the red flags are if you get one of those pop-ups, turn your laptop off right away because it means that they've put a virus in your computer. Bring your computer to a technician. Second red flag is we never give our credit card information over the telephone or our banking information over the telephone. And then the other red flag is allowing them access into your device. So I would say never let anybody remote access into your device to help you with anything. If this did happen in the past, or if it does happen in the future, fraudsters will always be in your device. So you need to bring your device to a technician to get it cleared. Or your other option is turn that baby off and put it in your dresser drawer and leave it there for the rest of your life. Because every single time you will open that device, they can have access to it. Okay. So even though we say like, make sure you change your passwords. Well, guess what? If you're using that same device to change your passwords, they're going to see it. Right. So never allow anybody remote access into your device. The three other bulletins on the right-hand side here. So we have fake information and fake websites. So we know that fraudsters are creating fake websites using photos, paragraphs, addresses, telephone numbers from real websites to legitimize their websites. Before we used to say, look for spelling and formatting errors within those websites. But now with artificial intelligence, it's a little bit scarier because they can have the perfect formatting of the website, perfect grammar. They can translate any language into any language and they look real. So one thing I want to say is that if you are purchasing something online, please use your credit card. They have the best protection out there for you. If you're sending an e-transfer, wire transfer, gift card, or whatever it may be, you will not be protected. Your credit card, if you do not receive the item or you receive a counterfeit item or whatever might be wrong with the item, they will protect you, or they should protect you more than any other means of payment anyways. Okay, so fraud initiated on social networks. So the most popular one would probably be Facebook. So Facebook, there could be fake accounts there. Fraudsters are creating fake accounts using stolen photos of legitimate people, even celebrities. So if you do get a friend request from somebody you do not know, do not accept it. If you do get a friend request from somebody that is your friend, but you already have them on your Facebook list or on your friends list, one of the accounts have been compromised. So you would need to question that person to see which one is real. If you know that your account has been compromised or somebody's account has been compromised, it's important to let them know. Put something on your Facebook wall to advise people that this has happened so they don't accept a friend request from a fraudster. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the messages that you receive. So anytime you receive a message, even though it's from a friend or not, and if they're asking for a favor, if they're asking for money, if they're asking for personal information of any type, even if it's your telephone number, question that person. I know they used to say like, oh, you should have passwords with your kids and your grandkids to make sure that it is them if they're asking for something. But with people that you don't talk to every single day, we don't have those passwords, right? So ask them a personal question. When did I see you last? What high school did we go to? What was my dog's name as a child? Whatever it may be, ask them a personal question. If it's a fraudster, chances are really good they're not going to try to answer that question. They're just going to stop talking to you. If it is your friend, she will know that you lived on King Street, your dog was Rupert, and your favorite dessert is date squares, right? So if it's somebody that you know, they will know the answers to this. And if not, they'll say, hey, I don't know that. Ask me another question or something. And then advertisement on social media. With artificial intelligence now, there's videos of celebrities or even just normal people advertising something. Most of the time they're advertising these videos anyways for you to invest in cryptocurrency, which is a huge no-no. So just because Justin Trudeau or Doug Ford or Elon Musk is telling you to invest in this type of cryptocurrency, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Just because Julia Roberts is advertising this facial cream that removes all the wrinkles, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. All these nice vitamins that'll make you skinnier, prettier, smell better. These are all the types of advertisements that I'm talking about. So if you do see something, an advertisement on Facebook or social media, and you are interested in, don't click on social media. If there's like nice Nike shoes and you want these Nike shoes, go on Google and go to Nike.com and find these Nike shoes. Items for sale on social media, most of the time the prices are too good to be true. And that's how they get people to purchase their items. Or it could be other types of advertisements, could be items for sale. It could be an animal that's been found. It could be a child that's gone missing. It could be anything. So for purchasing things online, I would recommend to never give a deposit up front. Meet the person, not at your home, at a safe trading place. So the safe trading place are pretty much anywhere that you know that there's cameras, and the best place would be at your local police detachment right in front of the doors. If it's a scammer, he's not going to go to the local police detachment, and paying in cash is your best option as well. As you're picking up the item, you're looking at the item, pay them in cash, then you know it's legit. Okay, so now the last one that I want to talk about is fraud initiated by mail or in person. Mail is the oldest one in the book. It calmed down for a little bit, but now we're foreseeing that it might go up a little bit. And the reason for that is because we used to say, you get a telephone call from CRA saying you're late for your taxes and you need to pay urgently. We used to say, just hang up. CRA is going to send you a letter in the mail. But these fraudsters now, they're actually doing that. So just because you're getting a telephone call or you're getting something in the mail, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. You need to do the work for yourself. You need to call the government with the number that you are familiar with, never a number that is within that type of communication, to confirm the legitimacy of the letter. We're also seeing where people are sending text messages saying, "Hey mom, just letting you know I changed my number." And then the parents are like, "Oh, okay." So they change the number in the phone to their daughter's name or their son's name or whatever it may be. And then like 3 days after, they'll say, "Hey mom, can I borrow $500? I need to pay my hydro bill. I didn't get my pay yet. Something happened and they're going to shut off my hydro." So guess what? Mom or dad, they'll send an e-transfer to that number. So anytime somebody's asking you for money, you need to ask them that personal question, that security question, okay? So on this list, we have foreign money offer. So foreign money offer is a scam that happened or started a long time ago. And it's, again, slowed down a little bit, but it's starting again. So this is when you receive a letter from a lawyer saying that you've inherited a large sum of money from a long lost relative in England or in France, and you need to act urgently. Call this number. So this is starting again. We are seeing that these fraudsters are printing on stamps, those black printed on stamps or pink printed on stamps. They are creating those. They are so good that they are going through Canada Post. So just because it's a printed on stamp, it doesn't mean that it's a real letter. And even if it is a real stamp as well, it doesn't mean that it's a real letter. Fraudsters are purchasing stamps using stolen credit cards on a regular basis, and they're going through the mail. And the other two are employees and high sales pressure tactics. So that is when somebody's trying to sell you something. You could be receiving a telephone call, or you could be getting something in the mail as a flyer, or it could be somebody knocking on your door. Most of the time they will use high sale pressure tactics. This item is only for sale at this price now. It could also be, like your telephone service provider, cell phone provider, TV provider trying to offer you lower offers. Somebody coming to your door for a donation. It could be home renovations is really popular. So for home renovations, it's recommended that you never give a deposit up front. Do your research before you hire that company, ask for references, and actually go see the work that's been done, and never sign anything on the spot. Even if there's like a lawyer involved of some sort, don't do that. And if you are getting somebody to do renovations to your home, and they are providing you with an agency to get a loan, that's a huge red flag as well, okay? And sometimes what happens is they will get you to give a deposit, or they'll do the work and they'll charge you a lesser cost, but you don't have the option of how your bathroom is renovated or your kitchen is renovated, and they don't do a nice job at all. And then you're stuck in this contract. So do your research. Okay, so now we have top 10 frauds by dollar loss. So the number one was investment. And investment scam is honestly the scariest one, if you ask me. People can lose all of their life savings. Last year, we had a total of 3,866 victims with a total loss of $310.5 million. Spear phishing was our number two with 608 victims with a total loss of $67.2 million. And then romance scam, we had 1,030 victims with a total loss of $58.5 million. Okay, and then I'm going to let you look at the rest of the slide here just so you can see some numbers. Okay. So the first fraud that I want to talk about is the investment scam. So the investment scam is mostly cryptocurrency. So people are curious about cryptocurrency. They go online, they look at fraudulent websites, they provide their name and telephone numbers. These fraudsters will call them and say that it's their private investor. They will explain to the people until they're blue in the face how cryptocurrency work, how you invest, how you create an account. They will convince them to invest sometimes just a small amount. It could be $250 to start, but they need to create this account. So creating this account is called a platform, and some people don't know how to do that. They're not good with the internet. They're not good with the computers. So guess what? These fraudsters are nice. They're going to do it for you. So they're going to remote access into your computer. They're going to create this account. They're going to ask you for a piece of ID. So you'll need to show your face with your piece of ID, which could be used in the future by them to claim that they are you and fraud somebody else. So then when you create this account, you put the $250. Your private investor will tell you that your money should double within the next X amount of days or weeks or whatever. Your money doubles, triples, quadruples. You invest more, you invest more, you invest more. And they will call you pretty much every time that you log into that account, because they know that you've just logged in. It's important to know that once you put money into that account, it's already long gone. These accounts are fake accounts that these fraudsters they're controlling. They're making you see what they want you to see, right? So you're believing them because they say, oh, I promise it should double. Kind of looks like a stock where the line goes up, you're making money. As the line goes down, you're losing money. Kind of looks like that. So at that point, when you want to withdraw your funds, you can't withdraw them for whatever reason, or you need to pay fees to withdraw them. These fees have never been talked about, but because your money has tripled or it's over $1 million, you need to pay service fees, commission fees, taxes, lawyer fees, whatever fees. If you pay these fees, they will keep inventing fees. That's one thing that happens. Sometimes The other thing that happens is that they'll say that the account is going to crash, the website's going to crash, you need to move your money urgently. Most often they will call you at the busiest time of your day. They know because they've talked to you so many times. They know that you go play euchre at 6 o'clock on Thursday nights. They're going to call you at 5:30. You need to act urgently, and then you don't act urgently enough, and the website crashes, and you don't hear from them ever again. You can't get a hold of them ever again. So, rule of thumb for me, if you are to invest with anybody, make sure that they are registered with the Securities Commission. And if it was me, I would say don't invest in cryptocurrency at all, but that's just my suggestion. The next one is romance scam that I want to talk about. So romance scam, that is honestly the one that breaks my heart the most. People that are stuck in this scam, they're hardest to convince that they are part of a scam. Usually they will find their victims on dating websites, social media websites, or even gaming websites now. These fraudsters usually claim to work overseas in the military on an oil rig. They're very good looking. They're younger than you. They're always very wealthy. Then there's a problem. Something happens. They will only start asking for money once they know that they have your trust and affection. And then they're going to start asking for money. You're the only person that can help them. And I'm saying this quickly, but honestly, they're good at what they do. They will show pictures for years sometimes before they start asking money. So their story is believable. It could be because they're in the hospital, they miss their flights, they need to pay lawyer fees. There's large inheritance. They can't access their funds. They want you to pay. They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their cell phone bill. They don't have any food. Gold bars is a big one. They're shipping them to you. They're stuck at the border. You have a whole bunch of papers to fill and fees to pay for the gold bars to be delivered to you. It's honestly, it breaks my heart. So again, don't provide personal or finance or money to anybody you've never met in person. So that's my rule of thumb here. Service scam, we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but what I wanted to add was any single time that you get a telephone call from a credit card company where they can lower your interest rate, or anytime you get a telephone call from any type of service that you have, that they have a special deal happening, just hang up and call the number you're familiar with to see if that offer is actually an offer that is provided, okay? These fraudsters are wanting to steal your personal information and either apply for credit cards or get cell phones with your information. Okay, so now we have the grandparent scam. So we have a special guest here today. We have Bernard that will share a story.
Hi.
Hello, Bernard. Thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Okay.
Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready. I thought I was smart. I thought I was up to date, but these people, they got me hook, line, and sinker on the first call. It was my grandson calling. He said he was my grandson. I have several grandsons. So I said, and this one sounded like one of them. I said, "Is that you, Matthew?" And he says, "Yes, it's me." He says, "Grandpa, I have a problem." "What's your problem?" I said. He says, "Well, I'm calling you because I don't want to call my parents. I have some kind of, I'm in some kind of trouble." So what kind of trouble are you in? He says, "Well, I've been arrested and they're holding me. And as a matter of fact, I'm with the police officer." Anyways, to make a long story short, he convinced me that he's being held and they need money for bail money. And the bail money has to be cash because it's the weekend. I forgot to say, they called me on the morning on the weekend. And that I should go to the bank and I should get a certain amount of cash. I think it was $9,000. And the reason they need cash is because the people who handle the bail in the courts, they're closed on the weekend, so they need cash. That was the reason. I said, okay. He says, all you have to do is when you've got the money, I need that money, otherwise they're going to hold me, and I'm innocent. Oh, and by the way, he says, the reason that I'm in trouble is because I was in a car with a friend and I didn't know, but the car was stopped by the police for an infraction and they found drugs in the car. That's how the story went. And yes, my grandson could have been in that position. So anyways, they gave me a phone number to call back. And then I start to think to myself, is this for real or not? And I did see if I could raise that money. I went that far. And then I said, wait a minute. The phone number they gave me seems to be a mobile number. It's because we know in Montreal that mobile numbers, it's just funny that a police officer is using mobile phone because he had passed me the peace officer to see how I should arrange the payment. And so when I called back the number, and I said, can I, the police officer supposedly answered the phone. He says, what can I do for you? Oh, I want to speak to Matthew. What about? Well, he seems he wants me to get some money. I want to speak to him about that. So I get he puts Matthew on the phone, the so-called Matthew. And I said, I'm having trouble raising the money. That's a large amount of cash. I can't get that cash in the bank right away. Well, he says, okay, we can get it in 2 payments. Don't worry about that. We can make an arrangement. Then I start to ask the questions. How come the police officer is using a cell phone? Oh, that's because we're in the station. There's lots of calls. Everything they have an answer for. But what they didn't have an answer for is, Matthew, by the way, how much do you weigh? So Matthew weighs over 200 pounds. He says to me, the last time I weighed, I was about 160. I says, thank you very much. You're not Matthew. And of course, he hung up the phone. That's my story. The end of the story, though, was I did call the police. I did have those phone numbers. They told me, we can't do anything about that. There's an 800 number they gave me that I have to call and report everything, give the information. I phoned that number. I was unable to get through to that number. I don't know. This is about 2 years ago. And that was the end of the story. I didn't go any further. That's my story, though. You have to be very careful.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And, with what you said, this is exactly what we hear every single time. So your story about drugs is one version. And another version would be that the person was driving on a busy street within that community. They hit a pregnant lady and the baby died. And they'll also usually say not to tell anybody because it could compromise the investigation. Yeah. And you do speak sometimes with, like you said, with lawyers and with police officers. They sound very professional. And honestly, Bernard, I'm super happy that you actually asked a personal question. You did your job. This is how you found out. And the other thing is, even if they say not to tell anybody, call your grandson using the number that you are familiar with to see if they're actually in trouble or not.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't answer the phone. I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but you did good by questioning his weight. It could have been any type of personal question, but you did good there. Sometimes what they'll do as well is they'll ask for the money and somebody will come to your door to pick up the money. Sometimes they'll ask you to mail it somewhere, or sometimes they'll even send shipping companies to come and pick up the funds. But yeah, this is the grandparent scam, and it's important to share with everybody in your community if you do get one of these calls, because they are in your community as you are receiving that call most of the time. So sharing is caring, and I'm again happy that you were able to prevent this from happening and sharing your story. We need to keep the conversation going for sure.
Yeah, I know your story is very interesting and that you're rushed, but I just have one very quick story to tell you. The other fraud
Absolutely.
scan is the credit card in the mail. We didn't get mail for a few days at my house, and we went to the post office, and they said, "Oh, your secretary stopped the mail. Here's the mail." That's like 4 days of mail. In the mail was a brand new credit card. How come you get a brand new credit card? We didn't ask for a new credit card. I phoned the bank. Yes, you reported yet you lost your card, so we sent you a new one. That, anyways, they
I
tried
will
that
actually talk
fraud.
about that. I will actually talk about that on one of my last slides, but thank you for sharing that as well. Yeah,
There's
because
all
that does
kinds of
happen.
fraud. We caught them though.
Absolutely does happen. Okay, move along. I have a few more frauds that I want to talk about. So I can't change my slide anymore. Okay, there you go. So the next one I want to talk about is the bank investigator scam. There's thousands of variations to this, but the only thing I can tell you is that these fraudsters will call you and say that your bank account has been compromised. Sometimes they'll say that they think they know who the scammer is, but they need your help to catch the criminal. Sometimes they will gain remote access to your computer and get you to log into your bank accounts to show you that there's actually money missing. But what they're doing is that they're moving money between your bank accounts to show you so you can actually see that there's money missing, but they've just moved it. And then they're going to either wire transfer or e-transfer themselves. Sometimes they'll say that I've put $5,000 into your bank account. Go buy gift cards at the Shoppers Drug Mart. We think it's the clerk at the Shoppers Drug Mart that is compromising you. But again, they're not putting money in there, but they are in there and they're moving money. So they took $5,000 from your line of credit. They put it in your checking account. You can see there's money there. So you go and buy gift cards and then you send them pictures of these gift cards so they can claim these gift cards. Sometimes they'll say to put your debit or credit card in an envelope and somebody will go and replace it for you. Sometimes they'll even say to cut up your card and they'll come and pick it up and replace it. It's really important that if you are cutting up a credit card or a debit card, that you do cut the black strip and also the chip, because what they're doing is that they're taking that chip and they're like taping it to another card and they're going to stores and making purchases. So again, if your bank is calling you to tell you that your account's been compromised, hang up, wait 5 minutes, and call the number that you are familiar with to make sure that this is true or not. The next scam is the prize scam. So this one can be initiated by a pop-up. It could be a message on Facebook from a friend. It could be a letter in the mail. It could be a call. It could be initiated at any type of solicitation method. So rule of thumb here is in Canada, you are not to pay any fees under no circumstance to collect a prize. Even if it's taxes, lawyer fees, anything, you are not to pay anything to collect a prize in Canada. Publishers Clearinghouse and Reader's Digest are the most popular ones, but there are other ones out there. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we had a gentleman who won a Tim Hortons 50-50 draw. It could be a Costco card. It could be Shoppers Drug Mart. It could be Giant Tiger. It could be anything. So again, do not pay anything to collect a prize in Canada. The next scam that I'm going to talk about is the extortion scam. So this one is anytime there's a threat. It could be a small threat. It could be a big threat. So a small threat could be, you get a text message or an email saying that you didn't pay a parking ticket, you can lose your license. It could be that you didn't pay your hydro bill and they'll shut off your hydro. Those are the small types of extortion scams. But there are other ones where they say, especially to new people to Canada, they don't really know what their social insurance number is. So what they say is that your social insurance number has been compromised. If you don't follow their instructions, you could be deported from the country. You could lose your job. It could also be that one that we're seeing is that they're going on Google and they're taking a picture of your home, like Google Earth. They can zoom into people's homes. They take a picture of your home. They send it to you via email or mail and they say, give me $5,000 or I will bomb your house or I will abduct your child or I will These are bigger type of extortion scams. So anytime that you are in danger, you are to report it to the police. But even if you pay their request, they will always be after you. And they're most often not even in our country. So you don't technically need to worry about it. Just report it and ignore them. The best thing to do is to ignore them, that you won't get any of the threats. And like, again, usually it doesn't happen. It's just a threat. The next one is phishing and smishing. So this is when you receive a text message or an email that contains a link. Rule of thumb, any type of email or text message that you receive that contains a link, do not follow that link and provide personal or financial information. Popular ones would be click here to pay a bill, click here to collect a grant, click here to receive money from the government, click here to redirect a package, click here. So they're asking for personal and financial information. Again, if you have a little bit of a doubt that it might be true, do not follow the link. Follow up with the number that you are familiar with. I can't say this enough. That is the biggest thing that you can absorb from this, is use the number that you are familiar with to confirm the legitimacy of that message. Clicking on those links usually does not contain any viruses or malware, but you never know. So don't click on those links. Artificial intelligence. This is so scary to us. Like, I know that artificial intelligence is used for a lot of good things, but it's also used for a lot of bad things. So here, deepfake technology is what I wanted to talk about, really. This is when fraudsters can change the voice of somebody. They can change the appearance of somebody. They can even change the movements of somebody. So when I was a kid, my mom used to say, don't believe everything you see online or on the TV. Well, exactly. Even worse now. So just because a celebrity is endorsing a product or cryptocurrency or investments or anything, it doesn't mean that it's them. You get a telephone call. It sounds like your grandson. Well, guess what? They may have stolen his voice and they're using it to convince you of something. So don't believe everything you see. Funny ones that I've been seeing lately is where they're changing Judge Judy into a little cartoon character, and it's her voice, but it's a little cartoon character. So it's just to say they can do everything now. So fraudsters target previous victims. This is a fact. So if you have been a victim or have provided a little bit of a personal or financial information, you need to keep yourselves informed on the type of scams that are out there. It's also been proven that if you've lost money to a scam, there's another scam called the recovery scam. And this is when they call you and say, we know that you've lost X amount of money. I am a lawyer. I'm a private investigator. We know where your money is. We can help you get it back. There's a fee associated to that. And this is just another type of scam. So I know that I have shared our toolkit with Monica, which she will put, I believe, on the website and email to the attendees of this presentation. Read it, share it. Sharing is caring, and honestly, education is the key to prevention. On our website, here at the bottom, antifraudcenter.ca, there's like another 80 different types of scams that are listed alphabetically. If you're not sure if you're being part of a scam or not, you can always go on the website and search it up. And the other thing I want to say is, if you're not sure, take 5 minutes to think about what is happening before you react and talk to 2 people about it. They might be able to enlighten you in the situation that you're in. And if you are a victim, this is what I would like you to do. So gather all the information as best as you can. And then contact the 2 major credit bureaus. So the 2 major credit bureaus are Equifax and TransUnion, and ask to place alerts. There's no fee for these alerts. I know that they have larger packages that you pay a monthly fee, but this is not what you need. You need to place alerts. So what will happen if you place these alerts is that if somebody is trying to apply for a loan or a credit card using your personal information, they will need to call you or text you or email you to confirm that you are actually the one applying for that credit card. The reason why I want you to do both is because they're both responsible for different financial institutions. And maybe put this in the chat as I'm saying it, but the number for Equifax is 1-866-828-5961. So 866-828-5961. And TransUnion is 1-800-663-9980. So 1-800-663-9980. And ask for the fraud alerts, the free service. And then we want you to report to your local law enforcement. We want you to report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. As Bernard said, it is really hard to get through to us sometimes. So if you are able to report online, it's probably the easiest way. And if you're not sure if you've done it correctly or not, just do it as best as you can. And somebody does validate those reports before they're transferred to our database. Step 5 is we want you to review your financial statements and notify them of any suspicious activity. Step 6, you need to notify your financial institutions and credit card companies and change your passwords to your online accounts. And as Bernard said, if you suspect that your mail has been redirected, notify Canada Post, because fraudsters, and like Bernard said, they can apply for a credit card using your personal information, and then they can contact Canada Post or redirect your mail somewhere else so they can actually have that physical card. And at any point in time, if any of your IDs have been compromised, we would like you to notify your the government, federal and provincial government, to advise them that an ID has been compromised. They can change them. The only ID that they cannot change is your social insurance number. So do not use that social insurance number as an ID unless you 100% have to. I don't want you to keep that card in your wallet, in your purse, in your car. This card is meant to be placed at home somewhere secure, in your safe, in your freezer, in your underwear drawer, as long as it's not in your wallet, okay? And then that's it for today. So thank you again for having me. So here is our 1-800 number and our website to report or to educate yourself on frauds. And now we're at questions. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I know that we will go through the questions in the chat. And if we have time after, we can go through questions online as well, if time permits.
Okay, hi, I'm Debbie, and I'm going to field the questions. We have a few that have come through. One was asking what is phishing, but you answered that question. Thank you, Stephanie. Also, do we contact your organization if there's a fraud? And yes, we heard that we do, in addition to the police.
Yeah, I also want to mention, I haven't mentioned this, but you can report a fraud if you've been a victim or not. And you can report fraud on behalf of yourself. You can report fraud on behalf of somebody else, and you can even report anonymously. So if you know that your neighbor is being part of a scam and you've tried to convince them X amount of times and it doesn't work, you can report to us and say, hey, can we have somebody from the senior support unit call my neighbor and try to convince them that they're being scammed? So remember that that is a really good service that we do have here.
Fantastic. Okay, one good question is, what about Apple? When people are getting their Apple phones fixed, they contact Apple and Apple gains access to their computer. Is that okay?
So if you 100% know that you have the right telephone number, it's okay. But most often what people will do is that they have a problem with their Apple phone and they go on the internet, they look for a telephone number for Apple customer service, they find a fraudulent telephone number unknowingly, because these fraudsters will fix the problem for you. They're also professionals, they know, but they're stealing your information. So Geek Squad is another one that people ask me all the time. It's a service that they purchased through Best Buy. Well, I would go to Best Buy or look at the correspondence that you received when you purchased your laptop or device and find the telephone number there. Don't go on the internet or don't call any of those numbers that are popping up on your computer for whatever reason. So if you're 100%, if you 100% think that this is the right number, it's fine. But there's so many times that people think it is the right number and it's not, and then they get compromised. So.
Okay, thank you. When the phone rings and we get a message either on the display or we hear a voice, this is a scam. How do they know that? Who knows that?
So most of the time it's because people have reported, like when you get a telephone call and you pick it up, let's just say, and it's a scam, you can report it to your service provider. So that is one reason, one way that the telephone service providers can know that it's a scam. And the other thing is fraudsters are using services online where they're changing the call display. So I think service providers are knowing that this is happening. They can't prevent it from happening at this point, but at least they can warn people that this service has been used to change the call display.
Okay. Another question is it safe to pay for things with Amazon, or you get a ticket for speeding and we automatically pay things online? Is that something we should be afraid of?
Again, if you 100% know that it's the right website, then it's fine to pay things online. I would recommend going through your bank to pay things, or I would recommend using the app on your telephone. So, for example, like on my telephone, I have like I'm looking now because I pay certain things online, but um, 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 can't even find one right now. But like if you have Bell, for example, and you know that you have the Bell app on your telephone and you get your statement on your Bell app, well, it's okay to pay through that app, or it's okay to pay logging into your bank account and paying that way. I know some people don't like putting their credit card information in like any type of website or anything like that. I would just recommend not saving passwords, not saving your credit card information. And if you're still worried, you can clear your cache. So clearing your cache is when you go in like the on the right hand side of your screen when you're on a website, there's like settings. There's three little buttons. There's settings, and you can go in there and clear your browsing history.
Hmm. Okay.
Actually, I could probably share my screen. I'll show you. Give me 1 second. So it depends on what website you're on, but if you click on the three little dots here it says delete browsing history. So that'll delete all your browsing history. So if you've saved a password in the past, or you've saved a credit card by accident, this will clear all of your browsing history.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I have some other questions that were given to us previously. What psychological tactics do scammers rely on most effectively, and how can we train ourselves to recognize and resist them in the moment?
Ooh, question. So they will play with your emotions first of all. That is probably the biggest one. So like the grandparents scam is one, but the other thing is that like emotions, they'll brainwash you. Anytime there's a sense of urgency, you need to remember that that's a red flag. What else? Again, like they always try to catch you at a bad time of day. So if it's Christmas time, right before dinner time, early in the morning, most of the time people get scammed because they're in a rush, they're going somewhere. And just always be alert. Follow your gut instincts. Like if you have a little bit of a doubt, don't do it. Hang up. Don't ever be afraid to hang up. And the other thing I want to say, it's not even answering your question, but if somebody comes to your door and you didn't ask anybody to come to your door, don't answer your door. Because if you answer that door, you pick up that telephone, they could convince you of something. So that's why we don't want you to answer your door, pick up the telephone, because people are easily convinced. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question properly, but it's really hard. It's different with every scam. So,
Okay, that's fine. How can you tell the difference between a helpful new technology like AI and one that might be misused to deceive or scam you? So there's new things coming out all the time. How can we tell if they're real?
it's hard for us to. Artificial intelligence is probably the scariest thing out there. And like I said during the presentation, AI is used for good things, but it's also used for bad things. If it sounds too good to be true, it likely is. I don't know. because like any type of artificial intelligence can be used for good things or bad things, but it's so hard to tell. Like I had somebody at a presentation yesterday actually tell me that she was talking to somebody on the phone and she was sure it was AI, but she wasn't sure. She's like, I'm sure, but it sounds so real. Like I would ask a question, they would answer. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's too new for me as well, unfortunately.
If you were to share one key warning or lesson from this workshop, what would it be?
One key warning?
Yeah, for us.
Oh my God, there's so many. But again, like I said it during the presentation, follow up with the source would be number one, because you need to keep your guard up all the time. So follow up with the source. And then anytime there's a sense of urgency, anytime you need to send money to somebody or provide personal or financial information to somebody, if you have a little bit of a doubt, don't do it. Talk to somebody. It could be like when I say talk to somebody, it could be anybody, right? Like if you pick up the telephone, you're not sure if it's a scam, you're not sure what to do. You could talk to your kids, you could talk to your friends, you could talk to the clerk at the store, you could talk at the clerk at the bank, you could talk to the taxi driver, you could talk to the guy cutting the lawn across the street. Doesn't matter who you're talking to, just keep the conversation open and with everybody. The more that we can keep the conversation open, the more that we know that it's okay to talk about it, and the more that we will talk about it, and the more that others will talk about it. But yeah, don't share personal or financial information with anybody unless you've initiated it. That's
okay. Are there any other questions? Not getting any more.
I know that I didn't talk about gift cards much, and I didn't talk about Bitcoin machines much. So before I let all of you go, I want to talk about those two things. So with the extortion scams that I talk about where there's a threat, most of the time they'll say that you need to make an immediate payment. And those immediate payments are either made by gift cards or Bitcoin ATMs. So gift cards, what they'll say is that they'll say, go buy gift cards and then send me a picture of the gift card to make the immediate payment. Please know that you cannot make an immediate payment or any payment using a gift card unless you're on the website for that. So example, if you have a gift card for sportscheck and you're on sportscheck.com, yes, you can make a payment using your sportscheck gift card. But if your hydro company is calling you and they're asking you for sportscheck gift cards, well, no, you can't make a payment like that. So rule of thumb for that is never send pictures of those gift cards to anybody. And also don't read out the numbers to anybody on gift cards. Bitcoin ATMs, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they look like ATM machines. They're like in corner stores. They could be in pharmacies. They could be in the mall. They could be anywhere. And again, they will get you to put money in it to make an immediate payment. Sometimes they'll get you to scan like a QR code, or it'll spit out a receipt with a QR code or a wallet number, and then you provide that to the scammers. Once the money is gone, it's gone. So one of the reasons why fraudsters are using these machines is because they're easily located for them. There's actually a website online where you can put your address and it'll tell you where the closest one is to you. So fraudsters will tell you, oh, you live on 220 Main Street? Well, there's one at 215 Front Street. Go there and do it. So a little favor from all of you is that if I want you to figure out where these machines are within your community. Most Circle Ks have them. And if ever you see somebody at one of those machines, go and talk to them, because those machines are often used for fraudulent purposes. And gift cards, one of the main reasons why they ask for gift cards nowadays is because there's, again, a website, and don't ask me why these are legal, but they are, where you can convert gift cards into cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrency is very, very hard to trace. So that's why fraudsters are wanting these gift cards to convert to cryptocurrency. And this is why they want you to put money into those Bitcoin ATM machines.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Thank you very much, Stephanie. I think Monica was going to finish off for us. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect.
Thank you, Stephanie. Your presentation about scams was the most comprehensive I have ever witnessed. We thank you for all the knowledge and good advice you shared with us this afternoon. We also appreciate the toolkit you left with us, which we will email to every person who registered for the webinar. Bernard, thank you for sharing your lived experience with the grandparent scam. I was sitting in your garden actually when it had happened, and you were incredibly upset and excited, though, that you escaped that potential scam.